People who care about cycling and public space and urbanism need to recognize the threat posed by Uber and other rideshare services. Uber is, of course, the market leader in this area, and I encounter it in my work. It's just amazing to me what Uber is doing to degrade the safety and security of people in public space. First off, they have this thing they do where if you ever download the Uber app, then you've signed away your rights to ever pursue a legal claim in court. You have to agree to arbitration, which typically means not much remedy at all. Secondly, Uber will, they have actually tampered with the Google Maps routing engine that they purchase from Google and incorporate into the Uber app, and they use it to instruct their drivers to make illegal and unsafe moves. Drivers who you see who are making U-turns, drivers of cars for hire, it may not be that driver is just a wild style driver who's focused on getting the fare into their car and isn't paying attention to the rules against making a U-turn. It may be that the Uber app, speaking through the Google API that they have incorporated into their app, is instructing the driver to make illegal moves. I have a case just like this right now, where we have the evidence showing that the Google Maps API was in essence corrupted with restrictions lifted. You know, Google Maps, I think, has done a reasonable job in its routing engine of setting it up so that you cannot travel counterflow on a one-way street. You cannot take a bicycle on a ride on an interstate highway. There are certain rules and they need to be built into the algorithm. But what Uber seems to have done is taken these algorithms and tweaked them not so slightly so that a driver is going to get to their passenger more quickly and pick them up, get them in the car, and get on the way. Well, that may well be something that's important to a lot of customers of rideshare, but the fact is, in the course of breaking those rules, cutting those corners, the drivers are injuring people and making a far less safe environment. So, you know, especially as Uber starts to take over the market for car share services and there aren't many competitors left for it, I think we really have to be concerned about them. What's the answer? Uber has to be treated as what's called a common carrier, right? So there's a reason why you're not compelled to arbitrate your claims against the local bus company or, you know, any other form of what people consider, you know, public transit under a doctrine fashioned by courts called the common carrier doctrine. The common carrier doctrine holds that when people are relying on a transportation system that's open to the public, that it is fundamentally unfair to require people to check their rights at the door, waive all their rights, and release the common carrier from liability in advance as a condition of getting that public service of transportation. It's just not allowed. You can't do it, even if the New York City subway system were to have some app that you had to accept and say, oh, I'll arbitrate all my disputes. The courts would never uphold that under the common carrier theory. Well, the question is, has Uber become like a common carrier? Has Uber reached the point where it has enough market penetration that there are markets where it is the only game in town if you want to get publicly accessible transportation from point A to point B? And I can say personally, I've experienced it. It's Uber and then also Lyft. I mean, drivers do work for competing services, but when they all have the same requirements and the same terms and conditions that you have to arbitrate your disputes, there is no choice. And you are being asked to check your rights at the door against all sorts of harm that might be done to you by a company that's just focused on the bottom line and not thinking about how doing what they do in public space degrades the public space, makes it more dangerous, and that the liabilities that result from the harm caused have to be visited upon the companies that are making all the money out of providing that service. Saddling the drivers with it, which is what Uber is arguing in too many cases that I'm handling right now, saying that, oh, well, these drivers are professionals, just because our Uber app tells them, to make a turn on the street or to do that thing, they have to use their independent judgment. It's almost like Uber is saying, well, if we told the driver to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, would they do it? That is such nonsense, right? The drivers are trying to do their best to earn a living. We hear all sorts of things about how drivers who are not prompt and snappy in picking up their fares are disfavored. They don't get as much business, as many volume of ride opportunities through Uber as they might otherwise. So they're trying very hard to meet this algorithm, and they are right under the thumb of that algorithm in terms of the employment opportunities and the income opportunities they're getting. So to turn around and say, well, those drivers aren't drawing the line firmly enough and refusing the instructions coming at them audibly and visually through the app on their phone while they're engaged in this business, they ought to say, no, Uber app, I don't think it's safe to make a U-turn here, or I see there's a no U-turn sign, that they are the ones who have to draw the line. I mean, there's a point underlying that, of course, at the end of the day, human beings have to be the ones where the buck doesn't stop. But when you have a system set up where the drivers are getting visual images on their phone, little breadcrumb trails showing them where to turn, and voices telling them, turn here, well, I think it's gone too far. And we really need to say that these apps are common carriers, and they're not going to be allowed to absolve themselves of responsibility for the harm they cause in advance as a condition of being able to use the service. It's like any other public transportation service.